Have you ever experienced that exact moment when someone you completely trusted turns out to be fundamentally different from who you thought they were? What actually happens when your foundational trust is just shattered? Really think about it, because what we're analyzing today, it isn't your typical story of romantic heartbreak. Instead, we're treating this as a case study on structural trust and profound vulnerability. You see, trust isn't just about affection, right? It's literally the invisible infrastructure behind every calculated risk you take as an entrepreneur. When that foundation ruptures, it forces you to completely rewrite your entire operational framework.
So let's start with phase 1, the foundational fracture.
To really grasp the scale of this fracture, we have to trace the timeline. Adrian was actually incredibly successful early on. He had built a thriving digital consulting firm by age 25. He was doing so well, he even paid off his mom's mortgage. And then he meets Mia. At first, she seemed incredibly supportive, remembering his favorite drinks, his fears, even his childhood pet's name. But when you track how this actually played out, it wasn't a romance. It was a systematic infiltration. Within 90 days, she had keys to his home. By the 6-month mark, she had somehow acquired his critical business credentials. Fast forward to 24 months, and they're engaged. Notice how this betrayal wasn't some sudden, explosive event. It was a progressive, highly calculated process. It's kind of like ice gradually thinning out on a frozen lake, you know? The structural failure only becomes obvious when you've walked way too far out from solid ground.
Well, eventually Adrian started noticing inconsistencies. A strange text message popping up on her phone, mysterious late nights at the office, just these really subtle behavioral shifts. He finally checks her laptop, which she had accidentally left open, and boom. He finds this correspondence between Mia and her closest friend. Just listen to the sheer, cold calculation here. I have ceased experiencing affection for Adrian. I am strategically positioned until his enterprise achieves profitability, at which point I will acquire 50% of his accumulated assets. His naivety is almost tragic. He literally sat there and read that sentence 19 consecutive times. The pure mechanical calculation of those words just completely shattered his foundational trust in human integrity.
Which brings us to phase 2, descent into the void.
So, he calmly confronts Mia. And get this, she doesn't even apologize. Instead, she masterfully deflects. She blames him, claiming his constant focus on his business left her feeling emotionally abandoned, and then she just packs up and vanishes. After she left, Adrian went into a state of complete psychological paralysis. For 3 straight weeks, he basically just lay in a dark apartment. Now, you might be wondering, why did this break him so thoroughly? It's because he was experiencing a compounded trauma. On one hand, he had this unresolved biological abandonment. His father had disappeared without a word when Adrian was just 11 years old. And now he's hit with Mia's deliberate deception, which was wrapped up in this aggressive gaslighting where she actually made him the villain for trying to build their future. He was experiencing the ultimate abandonment, twice over. It dragged him into an absolute emotional abyss.
$412. That is what absolute rock bottom looks like. Right in the middle of his paralysis, a former business associate, someone Mia had actually introduced him to, hit Adrian with a devastating, though completely baseless, lawsuit. Fighting that lawsuit completely drained his accounts. His employees quit. His clients walked away. He was left with exactly $412 to his name, eating cheap noodles just to survive, and living in this tiny, cramped space above a commercial garage.
But then, on night 19 of this descent, at exactly 3:14 a.m., Adrian found himself sitting on his cold bathroom floor holding a bottle of pills. In his other hand, his phone lights up. It's a text from his mother, and it says, "Do not permit one woman's failure of character to erase your entire identity." He put the pills down, he walked straight over to his computer, and he typed out a single sentence. What constitutes the fundamental distinction between pain as an obstacle versus pain as the raw material from which something unprecedented can be constructed? That right there was the pivot.
All right, moving into phase 3, constructing the empire.
Adrian realized something absolutely crucial here. Success wasn't going to be born from passion anymore. Passion was dead. Success had to come from aggressive, systematized momentum. So here's the exact, totally unemotional action plan he executed the very next morning, just to prove she didn't get to author his conclusion. Step 1, he recovered all his business digital credentials to secure his assets. Step 2, he changed every residential lock to reclaim his physical space. And Step 3, he swallowed his pride and called up every single client he had ghosted. He literally told them, "I failed you. Permit me the opportunity to demonstrate my reliability anew." Most of them said no way, but 3 of them agreed. And those 3 clients? They became his brand new foundation. He started working 18-hour days, not because it was fun, but because if he stopped moving, the silence would start creeping back in.
Fast forward to year 2 of this relentless reconstruction. His revenue didn't just bounce back, it skyrocketed by an incredible 300%. But he achieved this through brutal sacrifice. He stopped dating completely. He gave up all his leisurely distractions. He essentially sacrificed the old version of Adrian Shen in exchange for a new identity that was rooted purely in competitive excellence. He wasn't working to prove anything to Mia anymore. He was working to forge a completely unshakable version of himself.
And the sheer scale of what he ended up building is just mind-blowing. He's now employing over 200 professionals across 3 massive sectors. He is scaling rapidly in software development, his logistics infrastructure is solidly established, and he manages a massive commercial real estate portfolio. He didn't just rebuild a successful consulting firm, he constructed an absolute empire right out of the ashes of his betrayal.
Which leads us to our final section, Phase 4, the foundational principles.
Okay, so get this. About 5 years into building this massive success, right after he was featured on the cover of a national business magazine, Adrian's phone lights up. It's a text from Mia. She had seen his success, claimed she'd gone to therapy, and actually asked to meet for a beverage so she could apologize. Adrian read the message 17 times, and then he simply deleted it. From this entire grueling journey, he distilled his experience into these 7 principles of reconstruction. And I want to be super clear. These are not meant to be cute motivational quotes you'd slap on a coffee mug. These are hard-coded operational instruments for business professionals. They cover everything from basic accountability to using your pain as a literal tool for output. Let's dive a little deeper into 2 of the most vital principles from this list.
So let's look at Principle 1, which is absolutely vital for any entrepreneur. Trust transcends love. It is so incredibly easy to blend affection with trust, but the reality is affection actually compromises your judgment. Just because you care about someone or just because they happen to be charming definitely does not mean they are trustworthy. Trust has to be based on empirical verification and a system of design boundaries, never just optimistic projection. You have to verify everything.
And then there's Principle 3, which perfectly explains why Adrian just deleted Mia's text message instead of, yelling at her. Most people think the opposite of love is hatred, but hatred actually maintains your psychological attachment. It keeps you emotionally chained to the person who hurt you. Indifference is the true opposite of love. Indifference is what gives you authentic, true liberation. He didn't need her apology to get closure because he had already moved entirely past her existence.
Adrian actually spends a significant amount of his time now mentoring young entrepreneurs, specifically those whose foundations have been rocked by some kind of betrayal, and he offers them this ultimate reframe, which I love. Someone has compromised your trust. This presents an advantage. You no longer maintain legitimate justification for operating beneath your potential. Think about that. The person you were trying to safeguard is gone. The only person left to build for is yourself.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What if hitting rock bottom, what if being positioned one single increment away from absolute nothingness isn't the end of your story? What if the void you are staring into right now is actually the exact foundation you require to begin an unprecedented ascent? Adrian Ken's story is proof that sometimes everything literally has to be burned to the ground so you can build something completely fireproof.
If this explainer hit home for you today, if you've ever faced a devastating betrayal, hit absolute rock bottom, and had to build yourself back up piece by piece, I want you to drop down into the comments right now and let us know, are you constructed differently? Make sure to share this explainer with anyone in your life who might be going through a tough time and needs this exact framework. Your empire is waiting for you. It's time to build.